I was going to do a video on soil propagation, but it seemed a little bit disingenuous somehow because I hate soil propagation, apart from this one specific way. And this is also the way of propagating I would recommend either if you really, really don't want to lose the plant, and if, like the cutting, either the mother or the cutting, or if you have no idea what you're doing. Because this way it doesn't involve taking a cutting yet. So you don't even need anything. All you need is a pair of scissors and a plant. This is also really good if you've bought a plant that was reduced, because so when we buy plants, we like to buy plants that are nice and full and luscious. They're often just a load of cuttings in a pot, which is fine. People complain that they've bought a plant and it was just a load of cuttings in a pot. That's what most of them are. Like, it's very windy. That's not something worth complaining about. Anyway, so ages ago my boyfriend bought me a Syngonium mottled, it's variegated, and it had one long right, let me see, oh I can't because it's looped. It was probably about as tall as me, one long vine of decreasing leaf size. Let me see if I can get a look. So not very pretty, but they're not very big. Right, then we moved house. Now when we moved house, I wanted this plant to live in my kitchen window because I thought it would be good light. I thought it would grow really well because it's variegated, but it's Syngonium. So basically if you go from, Syngoniums can live in quite low light, and that's where it had been living before, like a medium light. I knew that there was going to be a casualty, plus I just moved her and basically all her leaves died. And she ended up looking like this. Now I've looped it around. It did have a moss ball. We've looped it around like that. So you might buy a plant like that quite cheap. Like, I can't remember how much it was. I think I've actually repotted it. Oh, she's got roots. Yeah, no, that's not got any label on it. Anyway, if you see a plant that's reduced and looks like this and you fancy trying propagating, these are really, really good ones to start with because you can propagate them without having to cut them. This is going to drip all over my knee. God, look at this, look at these bloody roots. So what we do, also, you might be like, why would I want to do that? Because when you propagate this way, I have found this is random and I don't know what governs it, but it just happens. The new leaves growing a lot bigger. This isn't an illusion. This leaf is about as big as my hand compared to these leaves, which are not. Yeah, so I've got one there and then I've got a new one there, and then there's a new leaf coming there. But there's also this vine which started to grow. This one I grew a while ago actually. Basically all you do is stick the end in the soil. That's why it's looped in a circle, because the end, like the general growing tip, is put in the soil. And I have done this, so I did this at the old house. That's what this new growth is, the smaller stuff. You can see there, I don't know if you can see actually, it's this stem here, and that's the end of it. It's just like laid on the soil, and then I think it's rooted in that node. Then I did it again, and then recently, right, so this is the big loop. It goes, right, so this is the original stem. Can't see. This is the original stem. And it goes up here and around, and I planted it in the soil. There. But also there's a new leaf. Can you see? No. Basically there's a new leaf. Oh my god. There, my camera skills are not. That has grown from this. That's rooted. So what we do now, because you might be like, well, it looks horrible, is we cut it. I like to leave an extra node on. I have absolutely no idea why I have insisted on keeping that ridiculous stick in. The stick's coming out. And then the stick might have to go back in. Just get him a real moss ball. Basically all you do, so now I've got a free end. So this will be like the growing end. If I left this out, it might start to grow. It might not. Syngoniums tend to be one of those plants that pick their own node to grow from, but it's not growing from any others because it was growing from the end, but just rooting rather than growing leaves. So then all we do is poke this end into here. The most annoying thing, what I actually like to do is lie it down a little bit, try and get 2 nodes in. I appreciate you can't see a thing I'm doing. Now, it doesn't look great, as you can see. Oh, this leaf though, I mean, he's beautiful. You are too. When this one came out, I was like, oh my god, that's it. That's going to be the end of the variegation. He's just got 1 ear, but he's doing really well. What the hell is that? It's just a bit of soil. It look like eggs. So we've got, there's actually two new growth points in the soil. So I've got 2 growth points, plus this growth point here, plus this growth point here. And then I just made a new one. And eventually, by the time they've all rooted, I'll have a really full plant, and this will have gone because they'll all be rooted. The reason I like propagating that way, I made it seem more complicated than it is. Literally, stick the newest node, chop off the growing tip and stick it in the soil. The reason it grows so well is you don't need to worry about keeping the soil any more moist. It doesn't need to be, because the growth won't come from, it will come from the node, but the sort of power behind it, it's still attached to the mother plant. So it's still getting energy from the roots. So they tend to root a lot quicker. I mean, I'd say you could probably get a decent root within, right, I'm saying a month, and you might think that's too long. But I mean a root that will anchor itself well. So then you can chop it, and you can't really pull it out of the soil. Like, you could if you yanked it, but do you know what I mean? It's holding itself in well. And I would rather have a load of like well-rooted nodes. What you could do is chop a load of nodes and then put them on the soil, but that way you're going for maybe a 50% chance that, what am I saying? You probably lose some. Plus you have to keep the soil moist and you have to check them for roots, and you don't need to do that. You don't need to check it. I mean, you can check it, but it's not gonna, as long as you're still watering the plant. I don't even, you know, it's me, I don't water them that often. It's a really great way to get a really full plant. Fuller than it ever was going to be, because it's got more plants in it. But it's also the sort of the quickest way. But it's not risky, you know, you're not going to risk the plant. What am I saying here? What I'm saying is it's the easiest way to propagate in soil. That's what I'm saying. I don't think plants propagate well in soil. Not that they don't propagate, they would propagate. I just think that's harder because they don't like it if you pull them out of the soil. Because like, in water you can pull it out of the water because there's not a lot of resistance. But with soil there's resistance and you can damage them. I just think it's the easiest way, and then if you notice that it's not rooting, you can just pull it out, snip it back a bit, and you've not lost anything. I've never had one rot, I don't think. No, I haven't. I've never had one that didn't succeed either, interestingly. But I have only tried it on plants that were growing well. It also works really well. I'll show you actually. This is my Raphidophora tetrasperma. Raphidophora tetrasperma apparently are very easy to propagate. This is all I've ever heard about them, is how easy they are to propagate. They would not root for me at all. By the time I got mine to root, I was so happy. I wrote an article on it. Within a few days, there was a woman commenting saying, what are you writing them this for? Like, they are so easy to root. But it would not. Anyway, if you're in the same boat, I think I did it. How did I do it? Sphagnum? I can't remember. Read the article. It was years ago. But now I do this. I'm out of breath from running from down the stairs. Yeah, here she is in a little loop. She's actually started to grow. What is going on here? Oh, right, I see. This is the original stem, and it goes up here, and I've cut it off. And then we've got a stem here that loops around and goes into the soil, and then we've got a stem here, which it's got a leaf on it here, so that's curling up like that. So basically, there's the last one that I did. So you can see it's like this has large internodal spaces because I didn't give it enough light. So basically there's a node there and a node there with a leaf coming off it. As you can see, it's just a baby, it's got no fenestrations. And this is the most recent. I'm going to pull this one out. So I'm going to show you what they look like when they root, because they look, I say they look like they're rotting. I suppose technically they are rotting because the end of the root, the node, isn't needed. But it's rotting in, like, it looks like that. Some of it is soil, some of it is... Can you see where it's rotted? But there is a root there. Basically it all goes under the soil there. The root is perfectly healthy. And in my experience, the rot seems to know where to start. It's almost like the dead tissue rots, but it stops. I don't know. All I know, like, it's never rotted further up. The rot stops where it needs to stop. So all we need to know is that we don't know how, it just knows. It knows what it's doing. The reason I started to sort of loop this and start to prop it was when I started growing it under grow lights, the new leaves, this is a new leaf, is considerably bigger than the old leaf. Let's put them together. You can't really tell. God, that camera angle's a pain. It's a lot smaller. So I was like, I'm gonna have all big ones. And then there's a cost of living crisis, and right, we're very lucky. We don't have any children, and we're not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but we, for now, seem to be okay and don't have extortionate energy prices. However, it seemed a little bit, I don't know, I turned my grow lights off because it just seemed a bit unnecessary. So they're all just on those shelves, and this one lives in my south-facing window. I don't know, it just seemed like I'm not like telling everybody to turn their grow lights off, but I was very aware that my grow lights were only, my plants they're fine. We have a really good light in this house, and I'm not saying I'll never use them again, but currently it's unnecessary, so I'm not. So we're probably going to go back to small lights. She is in a south-facing window, as I said. I am excited to see how big this leaf is. Obviously it's very small there, but leaves grow once they're unfurled, they grow. Anyway, I hope that was vaguely helpful. It's one of those things I don't know if people are aware that you can do it. Just stick the end back in the soil and then it'll, as long as there's a node in the soil, it'll grow, and the energy comes from the original roots, and then once it's stuck in, you can chop it. When you chop it, I tend to just pull it, and if it doesn't come out very easily, it's probably all right. But you can wait until it has a baby, until it has a leaf, if you would prefer it. It's entirely up to you. It depends on how impatient you are. But yeah, and not only does it sort of reduce the risk of the cutting from rotting or just drying out, whatever, but also it's faster because you get more energy because it's powered by the roots of the mother plant. So yeah, it's a good way of propagating. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.